Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Stargirl Season 1, Episode 3. It is called Icicle. So, full spoilers for the episode as always. Now, we said that Episode 1 and 2 were kind of a two-part pilot. They kind of felt that way. So this was, in essence, the real Episode 2, in the way we're thinking about it. And
Sure.
I definitely felt for the first half of this episode, I felt, I'm feeling the episode 2-ness of this. I'm feeling it, kind of slowing down a little bit, kind of just reiterating what it is. Courtney wants to go do stuff, Pat doesn't. It feels a lot more lower key than the first two episodes, the first two-part sort of pilot kind of style. But what I'll give this episode credit for is that by the end of the episode, it definitely wasn't afraid to advance its plot. And it definitely went with a more somber event than I was expecting. I expected something, but I did not expect it to go as far as it did.
Yeah, I would say, and arguably, in some regards to plot specifically, overarching plot, that is, it may even have gone too fast for some beats.
Oh, sure, yeah. There's definitely stuff to talk about there. Because they spend time introducing Joey, who we did meet briefly before, but he's the kid of the wizard character. He's the teenage son who's also into magic tricks, of course, because why wouldn't he be? And we see him with his dad, and his dad's teaching him how to do a card trick properly. And we see him try a card trick with Courtney, and she's very nice, and we see that the card she had was actually the Three of Clubs, but he pulls out something else, and she's like, "Yeah, that's
it was a Seven of Hearts.
That's the one. Yeah, how did you do that? It was amazing." And there's the guy behind her, who again we see later on. We find out his name is Cameron. He sees this. He knows that it's the wrong card, and he's kind of aware of it. And we kind of learn more about him later.
Nice enough not to
be a
pull
dick.
Her up on it in front of the crowd.
Oh yeah, she's did a nice thing for him. He's nice enough not to be a dick. So it does that stuff, and then. And because Icicle goes to see Wizard, and they really make a point of you care about your family, and it's not as one-dimensional as it could be, because I think in most shows with this beat would be like, okay, so the villain's going to threaten the family so that he'll do whatever he says, blah blah blah. It does add a little bit of extra layer to it, that it also makes it very clear that the reason why Icicle's doing everything from the opening flashback, which we'll get into properly in a little bit, he's also someone who cares about his family. That's also something that's very important to him. So it had maybe a little bit more layer than it usually would in that sense. But
yeah,
obviously,
definitely. His whole driving motivation is to do with kids and his wife. So it's him going after other people's families feels particularly dark, I think.
Yeah, it feels a bit more vicious than...
I think it's because that opening flashback, I was actually a little concerned because it made me think it was going down the route of trying to make Icicle really sympathetic.
Oh, not by the end of the episode.
No, absolutely. By the time it gets to some of the beats he gets to towards the end, I'm like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, because not only does the kid die, he actually ends up killing Wizard when Wizard comes to confront him, and that's just it. That's the end of those characters. And the funny thing is that you get just enough with the wife, Wizard's wife, both with the son and him, just in that opening scene when he's teaching the magic trick, that when he gets the news that his son is dead. And because it's clear they don't know where he is, because she's phoning around saying, "Hey, if you get any information, if you hear from him, let us know." And she goes into the hall, and he's just standing there. He's just got off the phone, and his heart's clearly just been exploded. And she sort of recognizes what's wrong. What is it? And just from his facial expression, she kind of starts to cry and understands that this can only be the worst news possible. And the sound kind of goes away as she's like, and so he just gets upset. He goes up to his safe, he grabs his wand, and he storms off. So when he dies, when Icicle just freezes him to death, all I could think was, this poor woman just lost her husband and her son the same day.
In the space of about an hour.
And to be fair, it almost immediately, maybe not the very next shot, but it almost immediately does this shot going all over the family photographs, and it ends in her sitting in the stairs, and it really kind of, it goes so far with just how because it played with my expectations, because Courtney wants to go after Icicle, and Icicle leaves this sign he's looking for the new Stargirl, the new Starman, but it's Stargirl, and he does this thing where he leaves a frozen star in the middle of the field where she's walking home, and she's like, it's like the weather's getting bad, but then she realizes it's only a specific area, and then the camera comes up and we see the star, and it's like, okay, that's a fun way to give us
smart.
the visual, whatever. Good stuff. And it's like she wants to go Pat's saying, no, this is stupid, we can't rush off. He's like, I'm going with her without you. And obviously the lesson here, almost to its detriment, was like, oh, of course she has to learn. She can't just go and fight him without having a plan, and she has to learn to like keep her emotions in check. Typical hero 101. To the point where it wasn't doing it badly, but I was kind of sitting going, okay, yeah, we need to get through these beats so we can get to the good stuff. And this next part I wasn't even going to complain about, but there was a moment where, okay, so they're fighting Icicle, she's immediately getting beat, Stripe gets frozen, sort of still, but they have the big bit with the fist that comes and hits someone, and he ends up on a bridge. And then we have the school bus coming from the talent show, which is what the Joey the Magic Kid was prepping for, right? And he was sitting next to Beth, who was doing like, what do you call the thing with the glasses where she's doing the harmonics?
I don't know what the name
You went
of
to
it is.
university for music.
Yeah, no one was stupid enough to play the glasses.
All right, but that's what she was doing. And she's sitting next to him, and I'm like, oh, right, we have kids in a school bus. Icicle freezes the road. It's going off the edge. I'm like, okay, this is going to be the moment. Because in my head, I was like, this is going to be the moment then where Stargirl becomes a public figure, and the town are going to love her, and it's going to create the public identity of Stargirl. Because no one knows she exists yet, other than the villain, right? No one knows she's a thing. So, and it's subverted my expectations multiple times, because first of all, it was Stripe who flew in and saved the bus for a start. All right, and then Stargirl just blinded them so that they couldn't really get a good look at Stripe. And
I thought it was weird where Stripe, he's there, and the kids looking at him. He's like, the kid's looking right at me. I'm like, he can't see you. It's fine. It's a big robot suit. Don't worry about it.
I guess the worry is that maybe he'll catch a glimpse of Stripe in the window or something walking past the garage. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, but hey, keeping up appearances, or lack thereof, I guess the case would be. But after this is the thing, like, Icicle goes out of his way to be very vicious. He sees this other car coming, this truck, and he just uses his powers just to have one of the deck of cards from Joey's deck just sort of float away, so Joey goes to like grab it. And then I thought, oh, so this is Stargirl's big moment. She's going to swoop in and save him, and it's going to be the big heroic moment where she's the public hero and everyone's going to love her. And instead, we just get the dramatic shots of both her and Pat reacting, and it doesn't make her feel bad or look stupid, because she is so far away that I get that it was just too far. But we get this, like, these moments of the reacting, and then of course the perfect little detail on the top of this was the Three of Clubs, the card that was hers from earlier, floating in the wind after being hit, and
it was shockingly dark.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it sounds like super dark but for a superhero show in episode 3, it was much darker than I was expecting it to go.
I think this is one of those weird things where, I mean, we can go back 15 years, or nearly 20 years to Smallville, right? Early Smallville, they're killing teenagers left, right, and center in that show. Yet this had more impact.
Oh, it did.
Like this had weight behind it.
Well, it's a couple of things. It took time to establish him enough so that we understood that, not only just for his sake because he was nice to her and all the rest of it, but also that even though his dad's kind of a villain, like the fact that his dad cares about him, that there was enough kind of set up to sort of give us some context for who he is, make us like him a little bit. Like I say, the Three of Clubs was the perfect thing to go. So, and we know that Courtney at least knows him well enough to care a little bit that he's died. But then on top of that, this all happened because Courtney was like, no, it's a trap. It's a trap for him. We're going to go fight Icicle. Let's go do it. And it led to the death of this kid. Now, admittedly, we know that Icicle was probably going to look for this opportunity, we know, whenever he could. Like, this just happened to be when he had his chance to do something to
convenient
Wizard's son. We know that he specifically targeted him, and it wasn't like just a happenstance thing. But Stargirl and Stripe don't know that. They didn't know that he specifically blew the card out so he would go in front of the truck. That's something they couldn't know, I don't think. So, yeah, so as much as I think in some ways it's the weakest episode in terms of pacing, in terms of the first half felt a bit more typical TVA, I think the back half did a lot more. I guess it alleviated my concerns that it was going to just fall into TV pacing, network TV pacing, and the traps that comes with that.
That's fair. I think it's worth noting that this episode was nearly 10 minutes shorter, even on DC Universe.
Yeah,
and
it's still
I feel like it actually could have done with an extra few minutes. It's
still a few minutes longer than what will be on CW, but it was definitely shorter than the last two. I think, Yeah, I could have used a little bit more time as well. I would agree with that. I think,
I think it could have just evened out the pacing more than anything.
50 minutes felt just right. And so, I mean, it could be back to that. This is the thing, that they've got the leeway on DC Universe to just, whatever it ends up being, it ends up being.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. But I like I say, I really appreciated that it doesn't feel like it's shying away from advancing the plot. Like, so many TV shows are obsessed with delaying the advancement to the status quo for as long as possible, and it felt like with this, it was interested in advancing like 2 or 3 big things by the end of the episode. And
yeah, definitely. I think there is one that I could have done with another episode before we got to that. But this stuff in particular, I thought was really well paced in terms of where it is in the season, and just already just feeling like these villains are a threat from the off, and they are malicious. It's not just oh well, we'll sit around for half a season and nothing will go wrong really. It's no. They're actively evil.
Yeah. So I really dug that stuff, and of course, I assume what you're talking about with the other thing that's advanced, probably further than we expected by this point, is after this, to try and convince Courtney of how dangerous the Injustice Society are, he takes her to the GSA headquarters, and we see the big round table, we see these big banners of all the heroes, notably the ones who have been cast are actors, the ones who haven't been cast are more like comic book like art.
Oh, no, they are comic book art, I recognise them. They are Alex Ross covers from the relaunch of John's GSA book.
Yeah. Well, no, I recognise the Flash one. That's why I said that.
Yeah, but all of them were from that series.
Well, not the ones that were actors.
No, of course.
Joel McHale was still just a photo of Joel McHale.
Sure, yeah, sure.
And Wildcat was, an actor because they cast Wildcat. Maybe we'll see him in a flashback at some point, more significantly, and that's why they cast him.
Yeah.
But. So she sees all this stuff, and there's a lot of teases here. There's like, okay, so you've got the Fate helmet, you've got the pen, the Thunderbolt pen, all this stuff. Which, by the way, one of my favorite little things in the episode might be her reaction when he said it's the most dangerous thing, and she goes, "A pink pen?" Like her face just was perfect. It was perfect.
It is honestly my favorite moment comes with the pen later. It's just a little touch, but it made me grin.
So, and he explains to her, this team were all killed by Icicle and his gang, and like we don't stand a chance, so there's no point in us like fighting. And Joe, it's funny, it's one of those little moments that I appreciate in TV writing where there was a line said, and I immediately in my head said what the next line should be, and to their credit, it was phrased slightly differently, but it was the same sentiment that I wanted to be said, where he says that a kid died today, so we can't do this anymore. And she replies, and this is exactly what I thought in my head, no, a kid died today, which is exactly why we should go further, because we have to stop them.
Yeah, I was going to just pick you up almost there, because that bit where you said about TV writing, where sometimes they'll say a line and you know what the next line should be.
Mm-hmm.
There's sometimes a danger of that where they do the line that you think it should be, and it's just cliche because of that. But this was better than that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if I think it's cliche, then I wouldn't think that's what the line should be.
Okay, more is going to be.
That's different.
There's an expectations that cliches can establish in your brain.
That is totally different from what I said. This is a relevant comparison.
I disagree.
It's completely irrelevant. If it was a cliche, I wouldn't want them to say it.
Well, no, obviously not.
The whole point was I thought, no, the perfect response for this is this, and then she said the thing, and I was like, yes, writers, you get me. You're having her say the right things, even though she is naive and a bit, too gun ho and
just a tad.
Yeah, and so we get a lot of morbid sitting around, but it feels justified given what just happened. Like a kid her age did just die, and then his dad died the same night. The news are saying it's a heart attack. The news of his son's death was just too much that he just keelled over and died.
I guess it happens.
I generally do think it does actually sometimes happen. But so she has this thing where she goes to the Hall of Justice. So do we call it that? I don't know if we call it that. This place.
I don't know if they did call it that. They just called it the GSA headquarters, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think it's ever actually been called the Hall of Justice, but it just feels like the natural thing to call it because, well,
yeah, I get that. Justice
Team headquarters. But she goes there and she starts taking things, because one of her things is like, oh, well, what if we get a team? And Pat, says, yeah, but like even with years of training, because again, I thought she was quite smart because he says, you'd just be starting out, you'd be a bunch of rookies. Like the JSA were the best in the world, and she has a really smart response. She says, "Did they start that way?" It's like, well, no, but
I get where she's come from. There's a fair argument from Pat here as well, though. It's like,
oh yeah,
no, they didn't start that way, but by the time they were killed by the Injustice Society, they were that good.
Yeah. Do you know what I think it is? I think he's making a lot of valid points, but ultimately you side with her because we can't just try and stop evil. Like, we're just supposed to let it win.
No, of course.
Yeah. So it goes back to the whole like all it takes for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing, right? I think the original line was men, but I'm updating it for inclusion's sake. But yeah, I think she has a couple of smart responses in this. So in spite of her clearly being too naive and too the way she wants to, because earlier on, even though it's kind of a witty response when he says it's a trap and she's like, yeah, for him, like, you're like, nah, you're making the rookie mistake here, Courtney. This is what every hero in this situation thinks.
Back off right now.
Yeah. But despite that, she still says things later that make a lot of sense and are actually quite smart, and it gives you that sparkle of like, this is why she might actually be good at this. This is why she might be a good superhero with the training and the experience and whatever. But she goes back at the end and basically takes everything that's there. She takes the pen.
I don't think she took the Fate helmet.
I take the Fate helmet because yeah, I guess she's unsure how to. And it was the same with Flash, right? Like, you have to find some of those powers to actually make it work. Whereas, I mean, you could just get someone and put the Fate helmet on them, I suppose. But I guess it's just too daunting. It's too daunting.
I would have loved the visual of her like putting everything into, like, turn the Fate helmet upside down and putting everything into the helmet to carry it out.
But she grabs a lot of the other stuff and says, "Let's go do some recruiting." And this leads nicely into talking about all the other high school characters, which they've been kind of slowly introducing. There's a little bit more of each of them this episode, some more than others. First up, we'll take Yolanda, and I know from the poster from the season who becomes what, because it's just...
I don't know all of them. I know next episode's preview on DC... I say preview, it's like a thumbnail, is Wildcat.
Yes, well, Wildcat's Yolanda, I believe. She becomes the new Wildcat. She's the one who has slut written in the locker, and the bullies are teasing her. And Courtney tries to step in and Yolanda says, "Look, you're just making it worse for both of us. Leave it be." But someone did paint over the word slut with some pretty flowers. And later on, Courtney notices someone drawing some flowers. It's like, "Hey, you did that, right? You painted over the locker." And he's like, "Yeah." We find out his name's Cameron. And she awkwardly says she knows because they both have names written on the sea. Yeah, that's...
That tracks.
I'll buy it for a second. And I don't... the math teacher's jokes weren't landing for me either, which, to be fair, was intentional, but...
I was going to say, the whole point is the entire class groaned every time he tried.
Yeah, but I actually kind of like when he said it's not Dateline, and someone went, "What's Dateline?" And I've never seen Dateline. I've heard of it through older movies.
Just makes us old people now.
Yeah. So and we get the twist with Cameron as well, that he's actually Icicle's son, because we know he's got a son from the flashback. And I actually was ready to come in here ranting about timelines because I misremembered what it said in the caption. I went back and checked it after I finished.
It said 8 years earlier, right?
It said 8 years earlier. I thought it said 1988, and I was ready to rip this apart for him being far too young. I was like, this dude should be nearly 40.
No, I remembered it being 8 years earlier because I was like, oh, so that's after the JSA has been defeated.
Yes, that's a very good point.
Because that was 10 years ago, right?
Yes, and Icicle's wife is dying. He blames the country and forces within the country. He wants to make America good. I don't want to say the thing.
I don't even think that's necessarily accurate as what the comparison they're going for, though, because it feels like he's annoyed at the healthcare and that side of the country.
Oh, sure.
Like, it's not going far enough. He wants it to go.
No, the reason why I said it that way because I almost said the thing, but also because when he's at the meeting, because it turns out that everyone at the where Barbara works for him. I don't know what his job title is exactly, but he gives a speech and he actually said something, and I thought he was going to say "Make America Great Again," because he says, "And I want to make America a safe place to live for our children. I was like, but he paused at the right moment where I thought he was going to say it.
I think that was intentional.
It probably was, but that's why I allude to it. But he, and he seems to like Barbara's idea for having a community theatre, because Barbara can't help but be a little upset. Oh, you're going to turn that lot into a retail park?
The tomato, she just goes, oh.
Yeah,
very professional.
And it does a little thing here where she has to turn down this meeting to start, setting up this theatre place, even though it was her idea because she has plans with her family. But then she goes home and her family's missing, because that's when Stargirl and Stripe are off taking on Icicle and failing miserably. So, and then at the end of the episode, she doesn't show up for dinner because she goes to the meeting instead. So it was a little bit of dissension in the family unit, as it were. I don't know if I was quite getting like Icicle's going to try and flirt with her vibes. It was kind of.
I feel like that's something that could go down, but I don't think that's what was happening in this episode for sure. He came across as a little creepy, but I think part of that is I think we just know he's the villain.
Oh, sure.
I think he was being overly friendly, but I don't think he was crossing into flirty territory.
Yeah. Henry Jr., he was at his dad's hospital room, which by actually one of my favourite little laughs of the episode is... so there's a scene here where some evil music plays as he notices Icicle watching outside, but later on Pat shows up, right, and talks to Beth's mum, because he's watching through the window, and they just sort of make up some... oh, I'm a friend, kind of, and heard what happened, it's horrible. And he just turns to her at one point and says, oh, yeah, where did you find him? I was like, oh, he was brought here, he was just outside the front door. And essentially what he's trying to find out is he working alone, and or does he have allies in town? And he just turns completely without any build up, and just says, oh, what was he wearing? Just really, and she just looks at him, and the way she looks at him is just like, his lab coat. Is like, huh, well, I hope he gets better. Like, he just walks, I don't know, her reaction to him saying what was he wearing just made me laugh.
I think it's a pretty understandable reaction to that question.
Oh,
that
yeah, it was a weird question.
Very, very out there.
It was a weird question, no doubt. But he knows from that yes, he's not working alone. There's allies in town.
Yeah, someone who knows about him has actively changed him out of his costume.
Yeah, well, we found out that was Wizard. He did that.
Yeah, we know that, but
yeah. So no, that's pretty much the episode. The whole twist of Cameron being Icicle's son is. It's another one of those conveniences, right? Given that the other kid was already Brainwave's son, like it's now the second time we've pulled this twist. It's the exact same twist, essentially.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's gonna do the whole like. I think with Brainwave's son, it's been very clear. Oh, we're gonna just do the evil route with him, and that's fine. Whereas I suspect with Cameron here, they're gonna play the will he, won't he be evil or a hero sort of thing.
Yeah, I actually got a little confused at one because he actually looks very similar to the other kid that was at the losers table, and we see this other kid briefly. His name's Rick, just from the IMDb page, but we see him briefly as Courtney's walking home at one point. So they're still keeping him around. So they're just. I like that they've not shoved all these characters down our faces so far. There's just been these little moments in the episodes to establish they're there before we're ready. And so Yolanda becomes the new Wildcat, right? Is she going to punch the bully? Like, are we going to get her knocking out the bully?
Probably.
Is that a thing that's going to happen?
Satisfying, I'm sure.
I'm not going to say I won't like it, but I'm just,
Yeah. Just some other stuff to mention. Justin the janitor still being very creepy.
Yes, I did enjoy Courtney like walking past and noticing she'd made a big hole in the school's name.
Yeah, I thought she made herself look more suspicious by trying to keep her head down and walk past when everyone else is going up to it and looking and going, "Whoa, what happened?"
I'm okay with that for the comedy beat of like.
No, sure, but it played a little weird for me. But whatever. The comedy beats that were working for me again though were with the brother.
Yeah, no, he's a couple of good things. He gets out of trouble. And
yeah, I feel like this first scene with Pat, bringing him home, might just get cut in its entirety for the CW. It feels very cuttable.
Very possibly. In fact, there was a good article. We didn't talk about it last week because I didn't see it till afterwards. But there was a good article online detailing every scene that had been cut, And there was a couple of scenes that were outright cut from the first episode, but there was a lot of little trims that happened within scenes. So there's actually quite a lot of differences when you list them all out from the first episode. So feel free to track that down if you want to see what all the differences were. But yeah, now he has this great thing where he's like, he wants to play video games, and he accuses his dad of not having video games growing up. And he's like, "What are you talking about? I had video games." And he starts listing games that he played, and then he calls Atari the Rolls Royce of video game developers. Which, I mean, he's tackling that age.
I mean, at the time.
So, yes, no, and he's going to give the son a paper route. And I'll be honest, this scene wasn't necessarily working for me that well until it just lingered on Mike the son's face when the scene just wouldn't end. It just lingered on his face for like an extra 5 seconds as he realised that his dad was serious about making him do a paper route.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I liked all the follow-ups to this as well, because he's essentially grounded, and he comes down and, past like, "Hey, I told you not to come down until dinner." And he's like, "Well, my stomach says dinner," and he gets whatever it was out of the cupboard and just starts going over it. Pat has absolutely no discipline skills, clearly.
No. Yeah, he says, "Don't take the Cheetos. Here's $20. Go get whatever you want." But he doesn't specify dinner. He just says, "Get whatever you want." And then we see him later, and he's sitting with a bag of Cheetos. So he got more Cheetos.
Yeah, and there's the follow up again, which is becoming a bit of a running gag with him feeding the dog terrible things.
And and the dog had the Cheeto face.
Yeah. But I think it was in the first episode, where the dog had eaten some of the marshmallows that he was doing in the microwave, and was throwing them up. So. Seems to be a running theme with him feeding the dog terrible things.
Yeah. No. The inclusion so far has been interesting. I think there was a fun vibe to this where, because he's got the secret now with Courtney, that he keeps essentially having to leave his son to just his own devices, and it just is going to keep leading to worse and worse things. Also, they made a big deal about Barbara having separate photos. Like, she has a photo of her and Courtney and a photo of Pat and Mike. I feel like there's going to be a beat probably towards the end of the season where they get a photo all together. So she's got one photo on her desk of everyone as a family.
Yeah, probably. I'm assuming this is mostly has been down to Courtney's reluctance to want to be part of an entire family and wouldn't, go along for a full family photo with the others, which by the end of the season she obviously will have changed her mind on that.
Yeah, very possibly. So, probably the most uneven. I mean, I feel bad saying that because it's not like anything in the first half was bad by any means. It felt like it was doing very typical episode 2, slowing down. Some of Icicle going around talking to like Wizard or talking to whoever else. Some of that felt a little bit, stretched out and monologue-y at times, in a way that wasn't particularly engaging. But then he showed his real evil colours with the murder, and it became a bit more interesting. And I actually especially like that he's got his ancient parents cleaning up his dead bodies for him. Like, they seem to be completely all in his mission. Like
Norwegian or something.
Yeah. I thought I heard a Danke, so I thought German, but it could be Nordic as well.
Yeah, similar languages, similar root.
Yeah.
So would make sense.
So yeah, there you go. That's episode 3 of Stargirl, but I do like that the main plot is thrusting forward, and that we do have this JSA recruitment, at least the start of it, coming next week.
That's the bit where I felt like I could have done with another episode before we jump into a full team recruitment. Maybe if they'd done just one, I would have been like, okay, well, we'll branch out and we'll get one person. But with her taking everything at once, it feels like a lot. And I'm like, okay, maybe this is a lot in at the end of episode 3.
Yeah, maybe we'll see what they do with it next episode, because it may not be a case of her. I don't know, because maybe it will just be a case of her going to one person and then seeing.
That's possible.
Like, what works for her. Maybe she'll try her with some of the different items, but then it'll turn out no, she's maybe just more of a fighter, and that's why she'll become the wildcat kind of thing. Because I have to expect, because I know that Beth becomes the new Midnight, so I have to assume that the owl that's still in the GSA headquarters is going to like pick her. Like, she's going to end up there for some reason, and the owl's going to be like, "Wee, owl, picked you." It's like the staff.
That would make sense, yeah.
And she'd be like, "I'm the new Dr. Midnight."
Yeah, and her parents are, doctors.
That's also true. It's in the family, exactly. It's the family business.
It's such a tenuous link, but I'm kind of okay with it.
Yes. All right. there you go. That's episode 2 of Stargirl. Let us know what you think of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Like is very important on YouTube. Lets the YouTube algorithm know that you recommend us out to other people, and it will do so. So please do like. If you want to support us financially, though, you can head over to patreon.com/mailedfuzztv and support us for as little as $1 per month, and you can get some bonuses, you get early access to some stuff, but go and have a look and see if you're interested. But that is us. Get us on Twitter as well at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. But thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?